So you're thinking about opening your own independent brokerage or maybe joining a franchise? This episode is for you, but it's part 2 in our series, Brokerage Operations and Compliance.
Let's dive in on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast.
You've reached the WB&L Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. And now your hosts, Jan O'Brien and Matt Emerson.
Welcome to the WB&L Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. This is episode 240, and you can find all of those show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. Jan O'Brien, part 2, technically part 3, because we started with pros and cons, right? So we got you kind of juiced up. But then we went in last week, kind of told you what you needed to get done, the 10 steps to get started, and now we're going to jump into the admin brokerage operations, which, is the most exciting part of the whole part.
Well, honestly, and it's a lot of work, right? And so we're going from experience here, and we're going to cover it this is for you, even if you're not thinking about growing a brokerage and hiring a ton of agents. It's covering the gamut. So you definitely have to do a lot of these steps, even if you're never going to hire another agent.
Right.
So we got you covered there. However, if you want to consider that in the future you might, or right off the bat, you need to grow and you want to do it, then we're covering everything. Okay. So that's it. Part 2. And really, if you're hearing this just for the first time, go definitely check out our previous episodes. They'll be in the show notes. They're not sequential because we're doing interviews in between, right?
Right.
Our Ask 5 series, but that pros and cons is where you got to start. So you really have to make a big decision. And we really covered the pros, cons of even just not doing it and staying in a company where you could grow a team and benefit from not having the headaches of running a brokerage, really.
Exactly. And you don't have to fish around for those. We're going to put all the links to the past episodes on the show notes for this episode, too.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can link right there to them.
There you go. So brokerage operations. So in the last part, we covered all the setup and the initial things from picking a name and all that. Now you're doing it, and you have to do this simultaneously a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're handling everything that was in part 1, but we wanted to keep that as the launch, the steps to launching, and then getting yourself up to. But now you're not really ready to open the doors until you do a lot of things we're going to cover today. Yeah. So let's jump in.
And some of this stuff is is a little tedious, but needs to be done. Yeah. It's foundational to your success.
Yes. So how about opening a business account?
Oh. What do you know?
And it's not 100% necessary, but you may want to consider 2 accounts, which is what we did in our company. We kept a commissions account and an operations account. So that way all the commissions, especially if you're going to have a larger company, the commissions can be wired in. You can keep commissions clean, and that's where the commissions come in and they get paid out to the agents. And then you can move money to your operations account as needed. And the other thing you might consider, if you're going to go to a bank or a local credit union or wherever you're going to bank, a local bank maybe, then consider getting a business credit card or a line of credit that goes with that, and or a debit card. You have to think about things like, how are you going to deposit checks?
Right.
Are you in a state where you can have the commission wired to your brokerage from, which most of them will do this anyway, from your closing agent or your escrow company? That would be very nice, right? Have it all wired right in. Then you don't have to hassle, which is what we ran into. Checks are coming in. Somebody has to go deposit them, or do you get the check machine, which is kind of expensive, to do deposits from the desk? Can you do desk deposits? People can do mobile deposits, but a lot of banks have a max of how much you can deposit on a daily basis, which we ran into. So These are all things you don't think about until you go do it. So there you go. Open a business account.
You know what? Getting your own line of credit as your own bank card or whatever you're going to be doing is just great. It's always better to get your name off of stuff, right? Have it in the company names. It's just a cleaner way to do business.
Thank you, Matt. And it goes without saying that this business account is going to be in the name of your LLC.
Right.
And when you go to open that, they're going to need those docs, by the way. They're going to need your articles of incorporation. They're going to need a couple other things, maybe your list of officers. So they need all of that. And then anybody else who's going to sign has to be present anybody that you're going to allow to sign checks. If it's not just you, all that has to happen in person at the bank. All right.
Yep.
Next, we have company policies and procedures manual. If you're going to be managing any other licensees, you must have a core document that you give to everybody that joins, and that you need a receipt and you put it into their hiring file that says that you showed them a copy, or you gave them a copy, or maybe it's housed online, and you need to be able to show that they prove, they signed something saying I've read and received it. This is where you're going to have a breakdown of all of your things that are not covered in the independent contractor agreement, policies for everything, how they turn files in, how they interact, whatever else that you have. This is where you're going to break down how the E&O insurance agent deductible works, how much are you charging, how does that get handled. And honestly, as part of a deal that we're putting together that we're going to have, and we haven't decided if this may just be, we're running our training program for certification, but I think, Matt, we should put something together about that's a little bit more. We were talking about putting a checklist together, right? And maybe we can make this available, but we have an outline of what of all the clauses and the headers of what should be in your policy and procedures manual. So you don't have to start from scratch. And you might be able to do some research and find one in your area or through your realtor associations, but we're going to include that in this document that we're going to put together, and perhaps we'll put in our
many things, harassment and diversity and
all that needs to be in there.
And social media guidelines. I mean, that one's huge. You need to have all of that kind of stuff in there.
And you might be able to find it at NAR. You might be able, now you can get the one we incorporated, we used the social media policy that was at NAR, but there's a lot of broker resources at NAR, and you might be able to find the basis of what you could put into your policies and procedures manual. Okay.
Yeah. This is really your CYA, quite frankly.
And you have to customize it. It needs to be what your policies are. Okay. Exactly. Even if you find a generic one, you need to customize this. So that'll take a minute.
I know. And we've worked with people that have had some pretty, I don't want to be rude, but kind of some pretty weak agreements or manuals, right? You really do need to take some time to personalize that. It's for your own protection. So
it is. It's what if you get investigated, or if you have a complaint, or an agent that's working for you has a complaint, they look at you as the broker and any supervisors you have. And one of the questions is going to be, where's your company and policies? Do you have a policy on that? Let me see it. Can you show that you've gone over the policies with your client, with your people? Okay. All right. So independent contractor agreement, also known as the ICA. Now, in my experience in working with folks that were starting brokerages or teams and so forth around the country, most of the time you can find a boilerplate independent, like California Association of Realtors has a good one.
Yep.
I don't think I found one here in Nevada that was through the association, actually, but I've seen them. I've seen them for Texas and other places. So I would start with the boilerplate for your state. And by the way, you may want to get an attorney involved in drafting your ICA, maybe also your policies and procedures manual, so that you get to that point Matt was making about risk assessment, that you're covering your butt, your assets. Okay. However, you could find boilerplate most of the time, I think, at state level associations. And again, at NAR, they probably have a good components that need to be in your independent contractor agreement. Now, when you get that generic one, it's not addressing the key that you need to add, which is your commission plan breakdown and your fees. Right. So you need to have an addendum to that. That would be, here's the state independent contractor agreement that handles everything. So you're being very clear. The language that's in the ICA is going to have all that stuff to protect you, that you're not deducting taxes. They're not, they're not employees. It covers all of that, but it covers the basics about compensation. Termination policy needs to be in there. These are all the clauses that need to be covered, and then you can augment it with your commission structure, your fees, and maybe your own termination policy. Okay.
Yeah. It's really important to note that these are two separate things. Your policies, procedures manual, and your independent contractor agreement are two separate documents. And a lot of people try to do a little shortcut sometimes and have one. If you're opening your own brokerage, you are bound to have a few employees, probably sometimes, maybe a lot. Right. And of course they're completely different. Some stuff might be in both, but they're different documents.
And you're bringing up employees, and that's our next thing, which is if you are going to, let's stay with that. Sorry, I jumped ahead. Sorry. That was my bad. Agent onboarding. So what goes with independent contractor agreement is your agents. And so it's more than having your agents just sign the ICA and the commission addendum and the plans and the fees and understanding of how that all works, how they're going to get compensated. You have, in our opinion, Okay. And just from the brokerages I've worked with and the processes I've put in place, I think it's critically important to have a great onboarding experience and treat your agents like VIPs. And that's the first impression they're going to have of how well they were able to come on board, transition to your company, and then jump right in and start using the tools and the training and the services that you have to offer them. So what comes with that is knowing the technical part. And if you're new to being a broker or a manager, you've got to learn what's it take to transfer, to have somebody join your company, to have somebody leave your company. Every state has paperwork and things that you have to do. It could be done online. It might have to be in hard copy. So learn that. How do people transfer from Realtor Association from one office to your office and vice versa? How do you drop agents? You got to learn all that. And then have a system for a checklist. Empower. When we did this, Matt, right, we empowered our agents with, here is a checklist of things that you can expect from us and things you need to go do. Right. So for example, if you're going to have an agent join you that's a seasoned agent in another company, well, there's a laundry list of things that they need to do to switch over to your company. Sure. Change out all their logos, change their signature block, change their voicemail, change everything at your local association, all their online platforms, social media. You need a list. Obviously, we have a list like that. And that's all part of this package that we're going to put together for you, for those of you that are brokers that need training. And we'll have an add-on package with all of this admin brokerage operations. Basically a primer. Well, that's what we should call it. Opening your own brokerage, whatever. So, and then go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you had mentioned it's so key, I think, to treat the agent as a VIP when they're onboarding. But to skip to the latter part of that, if an agent decides to leave, don't make it impossible for them to leave. So many companies will just fight with the agent all the way up to the very end, which is going to just be the worst possible experience for both of you. Hopefully you're going to create an environment where your retention is super high. You don't have to deal with it that often. But
couldn't agree more, man. Yeah. I say don't burn bridges unless it's somebody you want to fire and you don't want back.
Well, right.
However, if you're losing someone and it's Matt's right on. I mean, you're going to be sad, but you might be angry, and then you're going to treat that person disrespectfully. They'll never come back. Because what if they get wherever they're going and it's not what they want, and they realize how great they had it?
And then they're going to bad talk you too. You know what I mean? So
great point, man.
No need for that.
And also have an orientation, have an orientation of, even if it's a one-on-one, your small brokerage, have a one-on-one consultation with them. Or if you have an administrative assistant, maybe you do part and you go through what the policies and procedures are and you explain how it's going to work. You cover some of the tools and you have maybe somebody else that helps show them. Make sure you're just not going, here you go, here's your logins, good luck, okay? So
yeah, we had even taken it the one more step that on our internal website for the agents, kind of their dashboard, there was a onboarding page there that walked them through where, different photographers, where to get business cards, do a lot of that stuff where you could go in and kind of walk yourself through it because, they're going to be bombarded with all this information.
Yeah, it's
so the most information you can give them where they can actually succeed and have a smooth transition, the better off you're going to be. It helps you.
To that point, if you have a new CRM and you're going to have classes on it, perhaps every CRM that's out there that's a real estate specific site or tool has training tutorials on it. You can have links to all of that to empower them to start learning the systems. But that's a backup to you having an orientation.
Exactly.
If you're a large company, then you do it once or twice a month and you invite everybody to do it. And there's a method that you go through and you cover everything. And then you have all that. So that's all part of the agent onboarding. It's super important.
Yeah, doing that right is key. It really is.
And then we talk about employees. So if you are going to hire even just an assistant, then you do need an employee manual. You need job descriptions and you need an employment agreement. Okay. So you've got to have a good, solid agreement. Don't be having people, don't mix and match and say you're hiring an assistant and you're telling them they have to be here from 8:30 to 5:30 because they're helping answering the phones. And that's what we had. We literally had a jack of all trades person who was doing TC, who was the front desk, who was handling admin, who was handling agent onboarding because we were just getting started. They could handle all that. It was a full-time job, but they're not independent contractors. Because if I'm having them come in and telling them exactly what they need to do and when they need to do it, you will get HR nightmares going on here. So this is the HR part of your operations. Eventually, if you're big enough, you'll need an HR person. But most people are going to run a brokerage and they're going to have 10 people or less. That's the average brokerage size, 10 to 15 people. or less. And so this is all, it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 5 or 10, you need to have, be compliant with employee. So who could be those folks? Well, that one person, that admin assistant. You can have great titles for them. They could be the operations manager, whatever, but they're also handling the front desk, handling the mail, handling, being your support assistant, and they need a job description, and you got to work out what the compensation is. And we'll get to payroll in a little bit here. You might have a transaction coordinator. That's somebody that could be an independent contractor where, that is maybe working off site or they're available, and that could, and then there's a different way to compensate that person because it's per transaction. They may be independent. And then if you're going to grow any size whatsoever, I think you have to have a sales manager or a team manager or a branch manager, if you will, and then you're the broker owner that's maybe not also managing everything. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a good chance you're going to have perhaps someone that's going to help you with recruiting. You're going to have mentors or coaches or trainers. I mean, there's a whole plethora of things, as far as positions that people can fill. I'll tell you, Jan and I know I can speak for Jan on this, that your bottom line is obviously important to you, and you're going to be watching that very closely. But don't skimp on paying these people, right? And make sure you put something down in writing for these people, because it just clears the confusion, any frustration. People know what they're going to be making. Even if you're paying them on the back end, right? Even if you're paying on the bonus side of it, make it very clear, make it fair to the person that you're actually.
And yes, get it in writing. Thank you. Yes. So there you go. There's your employee stuff. And now we'll tell you, the next one is payroll service. So when you set up some of these payroll services, there's a lot of HR components that come with the payroll. Yep. We use ADP. I think we use another one. And that's where we were able to get some versions of a step-by-step build a manual for employees.
Right.
I already had some employment and contracts and agreements, but you can get a ton from the payroll services. So be aware that, you go to something like ADP, they are going to charge a fee, but everything is handled. There's time clocks. They can check into the, log into the computer. It manages time. You have to, I would have to go in and simply just approve the payment, and it was connected to my our bank account, so that, I approve the person's hours and whatever bonuses we're going to do, and they handle it all, which is what you want. They handle cutting the check, the direct deposit to the employee. They handle issuing the tax documents at the end of the year,
which is huge,
right? Yeah. And then they'll tell you, they're handling all the deductions, all the things that have to happen, which is all in the reports, and you can see all that. And then basically they calculate all that. So if you're paying somebody $14 an hour, then you're really paying them 15 something to 16, depending when you start adding in the Social Security and the other taxes, for Medicaid, all that stuff that comes out. All right. So you get charged for that, right?
This is become much more popular to use these third-party payroll companies and HR companies now, where in the past a lot of people just had in-house departments, but they're scalable now, right? They're scalable to the size of your company. So don't be afraid of jumping into something like that.
Well, and then by the way, when you are your own person and you're collecting commissions yourself, you could set yourself up as and if you're going to draw salary out, all those things, talk to an accountant, whoever's helping you with all the finances for your company. You could be on payroll for your commissions as well. You might be able to set that up as well through there, or a different account through your LLC,
right? But
use the same payroll service is where I'm going. All right. So now we're done with some of that admin stuff. Let's get into other things that you need to do to support your company. And the next big one would be a brokerage website. Now, if you're going to have agents, you'll want to consider getting one of the real estate websites. There's plenty of them out there, and we've used a lot, that's cost effective, which would allow you, when you hire an agent, to use as a recruiting tool to say, we're going to provide a website and a CRM for you. So for example, we had KV Core. We like that. We had we could take the basic KV Core agent broker site, and it came with so many users, and it was really cost effective.
Yeah, it was.
And then as we added more people, it maybe only cost us $10 a month to have another seat, if you will, where they have a complete website that they can put their own domain name on, and a fully functioning CRM with all kinds of tools in it is some of the keys that I'm going to be talking about here coming up. So a brokerage website that has agent subsites may be more than just a simple profile page.
Right.
Many brokerages just offer, I mean, that's an option too, that because some agents won't use your site, they want to use their own. So you got to consider this, but you can go all in where you get like a KV Core solution. There's others out there. I can't think of the other one right now that I've used before, but there's 2 or 3 of them that are similar to KV Core. That the agent gets a complete website. And then you have, at least with the brokerage website, you have an agent roster where people can find an agent, and they may simply have a bio, a headshot, and links to all, their listings will be there.
Right.
And that's the profile page I'm talking about. So at a bare minimum, you need that. And then you can go all in if you think that agents are going to use it and in your area that people want it. Now, this speaks a little bit to, before going and getting your brokerage website, and this is what we're going to cover in part 3 of our series on opening your own brokerage, is your branding and your colors and your logo kit. Matt's going to speak to that next week, next podcast rather, or
right.
Next podcast, whenever we do the next part 3.
Right, exactly.
Whenever it launches, it'll be a part 3. And obviously you need all that done before you go out and pick all the rest of the stuff we're going to talk about here today, marketing and all that. Okay. So, and that's where we are, agent marketing and tools. So CRM, there could be standalone solutions. You could leverage tools that are available through your local association is another way to keep costs down. Become really good at using the tools that the association offers and help your agents understand that's how we do it. Or you can go what I just talked about for CRM that's built into a website, right? And then, but there's other marketing materials, presentations. We're going to cover that in part 3, but it's everything from listing and buyer broker presentations to all your marketing flyers for your agents. Things that you would want to have available for them to use for the consumers. And there's third-party companies that you can connect with that can provide all this for you.
Right.
But you got to think about things like, I didn't even put it on here yet, signs. Do you have a sign, a very specific sign? When agents come on board, they want to know, is there a business card place I go to? Is there a set way? We want to do that. You should have templates for business cards we'll cover all that next week, but it's, think about everything, signs, open house signs, have it all done so it's turnkey and you have some branding going on out there in the marketplace where people start to see your signs, okay, and your marketing, right? And then your brokerage back office system there's some great systems that are all encompassing. And when we went with KV Core, they had something called Broker Sumo, and I think they've changed the name of it to something else, Core Agent or something, I don't even know. But it was tied to the KV Core system, but it was for the brokerage operations. And what I mean by this is you need a place where you can house all the agents, the information on them, that you can have transaction management tied in. So and I recommend considering an all-in-one as opposed to I have to log over here for transaction management.
Absolutely.
Then I run my back office over here. So you can do that. That's an option. But just know you are going to need transaction management for compliance. If you are investigated or they want to come and inspect your files, which every real estate licensing entity can do. Is to come in at any time and just do an audit of your files. Then doing it online is fine, but you need something that's compliant. So there's all types of paperless transaction management systems. You might have something through your local association. For example, we have something called Transaction Desk. There's a broker version of that. That would be your most cost-effective solution, right? I've used SkySlope. We use Loop. There's others. Those are the 2 or 3 or 4 that are the main ones. Then sometimes you get a system like there's a couple. Just do some Googling. There's a broker office, or I forget what the name of it is right now, but basically it's like everything in one. It's a transaction management platform. You can run reports on production. You can get all that stuff. The other thing you need to think about here is agents are going to want to know. You're going to have to tell them. You can build it generally into your transaction management system, but I always gave agents, as part of our onboarding for compliance, here's a checklist of everything we need to see in your file so you can get paid for listing. A listing sold, a sale, and if you do commercial or land or anything else.
Rentals.
New homes, rentals, right. Exactly. You have to have policies. It's all part of your policies when they have to turn in the files, but then you want to tell them, these are the state required forms and these are the company required forms. You don't get paid until the file's complete. This is where you handle all this, right? And then accounting can tie into your back office system as well. And that can be like, we used this Broker Sumo product, which I think again has a new name, but it just connected to our QuickBooks for the business, right? And the accountant could use that, but this is how we could close a transaction, approve it, pushed over to QuickBooks where we could cut the checks or do the direct deposits. Actually, our software allowed for direct deposits. That's a whole nother thing that you could set up. That's the stuff agents want these days.
Absolutely.
They don't want a paper check to pick up.
That is a recruiting bonus.
All right. They want it deposited, or it's going to be 1 or 2 days and it's a turnaround. You got to handle all that. But you have to think that you need something like it doesn't have to be QuickBooks, but it has to be accounting software. So commission checks can be cut, and or regular checks can be cut for your operations of your business, or the whole. If they're not physically cutting a check like through QuickBooks, it's recording every one of your agents when they were paid like they were a vendor in your QuickBooks, so that later they can do the W-9s at the end of the year.
Right.
All through the accounting system that you're using like QuickBooks. And you can get your financial reports, and you can work with your accountant on that, and you can run your profit and loss statements and all those things out of it. So those are the main components of your back office system.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, as close as you can get to integrating all these different systems is going to be the best thing. Getting as close to a single sign-on solution is going to be the best thing for you and your employees, because those are the people that are going to be in there doing it all the time.
And we've tried them all. I've had experiences with Lone Wolf. I'm talking about this whole KV Core suite of products. There's a lot of others out there too. And I've worked with brokers that we coach that have used other systems, but you do your research, you find out what's available in your area or through your association, and then you decide. But we're just trying to give you the big picture. This is all part of this checklist we're putting together, because you got to do the research and figure out what's best for you. Right. And it's not super expensive. It doesn't have to be crazy expensive. Agent training program. There you go. Well, if you don't have an agent training program, well, yes, you do. If you're listening to us, you need to get on board with our real estate sales builder program, turnkey, ready to rock, and our certification program, which I'm happy to say we're really close to getting it completed, recorded. We had to redo some things and make it even a little bit more streamlined and actually enhance it from the first time that we put it together.
Yep.
So we've got a better product coming out. And Matt, how can they find out or get early info on this? And probably early better pricing if you get on our list.
That's right. Easiest place to do that. Just go to WBNLcoaching.com. Right there on the homepage. You just have to scroll down right below Jan, and there is an inquiry form that you can fill out, or you can go to WBNLcoaching.com/RESB cert and fill out that inquiry form as well. Anyway, we will get back to you with some more questions we might have, and find out a little bit more about you. That'll redirect you over to our team leader and broker page, where there's a lot of other information about our training and stuff like that, including more information on a real estate sales builder, the courses itself. So run over to WBNLcoaching.com, fill that course inquiry form out today.
Love it. And we're very excited about that program. It's going to be filled with everything you need to not have to start from scratch and make it your own. And that's real important. When we launch that, and we maybe do an episode on that, or really get into what's included. But honestly, we've done the heavy lifting to get the nuts and bolts together, the foundational training that works in any state. You've got to take it and customize it for your area. And we'll walk you through exactly how to do that and what classes you need and how can you leverage things that are already out there. Okay. So agent training program, if you're going to have agents, you need an agent training program.
Exactly.
That's all we're going to say about that.
The last point in today's podcast, succession planning.
All right. So if you are one of our audio listeners via podcast, you are missing the absolute best slide Matt has ever created. And if you've got to see it, in fact, I think, Matt, you should put this, just because we're making a big deal about it right now, this slide in the show notes.
Well, absolutely.
So basically, last point, you need a succession plan. And all I'm going to say is I am looking at the cast of that amazing HBO show, Succession.
And they did not, by the way, they did not do a very good job with succession planning.
No, they did not. And honestly, if you follow that show or like that show, which is just so great, this is the final season of that show. But succession planning is such a thing that's overlooked.
Yeah.
And you have to have this game plan in place. If you start a brokerage and you got a bunch of people in working with you and so forth, what happens if something happens to you? What happens if you're injured or even die, right?
Yeah.
So, if you're gone, I guess you don't have to necessarily worry about it, but all the agents underneath you are going to have to go move somewhere or handle it. And there could be chaos around all the, whoever's taking over for your estate.
It could be your family could be destroyed.
Your family could be dealing with it. So you might want to put a succession plan in place, especially if you're a larger mid-sized company, of like who can jump in and close it down or take it over or whatever you want to do, right? Or involve your, just all part of sort of like a little bit like estate planning, but it's business estate planning and it's your succession plan. It can mean like if you're gone, but it also can mean, dead and buried, gone, versus long-term disability. You're just incapacitated for a while, but it could also be your succession, your retirement plan, if you will, like who's going to take over from you. So that's what we mean by that, long-term planning.
Now, I'd like to point out
your exit strategy.
That succession planning is something that's real and should be done. Don't do it just to make your employees feel like they're going to be able to be more part of your company.
Yeah.
That's just disingenuous.
It's kind of funny when I think about, I usually use exit strategy, right? An exit strategy could be you are no longer on the earth. You've exited.
That's right.
It can be you want to, retire and you want to stay involved in some level and you want to have somebody take over. And that's one of the things we help people with and coach them on what is their exit strategy. But you have to cover all those options if you really want to be, all around taking care of and being care about the people that you've employed or the agents that have joined you. And an agent can just simply take their, bottom line is if a broker's license is no longer valid because they've passed away and or that it expired, everybody's license under them generally is also inactive until there's somebody else is the broker. So a succession plan could be there's someone else that can step in and be the broker and take over. And this is how we're going to split the monies and all that. Right. So a lot of good stuff there. And that's hopefully helping you see, hopefully you're seeing through this series that if you're going to do it right, there's a lot of work to do. All right.
And really and truly, that's the whole point. We want to give you the whole, Jan and I are so big on systems and so big on foundational work, right? Because it's so easy not to do that part. It's, or actually it's not easy not to do it. It's you kind of avoid doing because you just want to get on, to making the money. Right. But the foundational stuff is so important for the longevity of your business. So don't skip steps.
I agree.
What are we doing next week?
What are we going to cover in the final?
Well, we're going to talk more about marketing because, we haven't talked about Canva on the podcast in a while, and we're going to be talking about Canva a little bit next week. But that's not the only thing we're going to talk about. We're going to give you resources and things for marketing, and Jan kind of talked about some of it, right? It's like down from the initial branding of your company to your agent tools and systems. And presentations and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna dive into that part as well as recruiting and promotion for your company as well.
Yeah, we actually want to give you best recommendations of like it's PR in a way, right? How do you leverage the fact that you've opened a new brokerage now and you want to launch it? Give you some insights on things we've seen, we've done as employees of companies, we've done as owners of a company. Co-owners of a company, and then what does that look like, and how do you leverage that to potentially use as a recruiting event, and then throw in some of our top recruiting ongoing ideas. And we could cover in a later episode, get back to our best stuff for recruiting and retaining agents, which is all part of our team builder program. But that's what we want to do: get you marketing, all your marketing in line, tell you what we learned about how we went about that. Share our best practices and help you launch and have a successful launch and let all your database know, let the community know, and get the most out of it. Right?
Awesome. Very good. So
be excited that you did all this work to open your brokerage. So
we'll be back with that episode either next week or the week after next. We're still lining up.
It will be there. Yeah, promise.
Exactly. Anything else, John O'Brien?
That is it. Busy as all get out. I'm getting ready to take a little trip. Got a couple weeks to button up some things, but I'm sure even while I'm back east, I'm going to be in Georgia and Florida with family. I'm sure I will still be managing some real estate business and probably recording a podcast.
No doubt. Okay. No doubt that will be happening as well, as one does when they're visiting family.
As one does.
All right, everyone. Was like we always let you know, the podcast show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. Boy, my tongue is like all over the place today. I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, WBNLpodcast.com. Once again, we'll have the link to prior episodes on those show notes as well as all the information that you saw today. That's about it for today. If you'd like, let's see, my voice is cracking. What the hell is happening here?
What's going on, Matt?
I don't know. It's very strange. Anyway, everyone, get up, get out, live the life you dreamed, and be freaking forever wandering, but not lost.
Freaking.
Freaking.
Do it.
Yeah.